Good evening to you, the good and wonderful people of the tube. Hope you are today, hope you are feeling grand and always well in your world. Hi, and welcome to another episode of How Many Tones Can You Get Out of One Amp? Today we are after the tone of Mr. Kurt Cobain. Kurt's a big hero of mine, love the music, I love his guitar tone. His guitar tone's one of the most mega gnarly guitar tones I think out there. It's just awesome, it's just a massive wall of noise, it just ace. So you heard a bit at the beginning. Let me talk a bit about what Kurt used. Well, what kind of like his mainstay stuff. Some of his, some of it or his obscure stuff. Start with amps. Why not start there? Early on, he used Randall amps. It was like a Randall head. I think it was called the Commander. I think he used. I think that's up to debate whether it was a Commander, but it was definitely a Randall of some description. Then it blew up before they recorded Bleach, and he recorded Bleach on a Fender Twin from 1968, and that was like, that was the amp for Bleach, which is, if you hear Bleach, you wouldn't expect that to be a Fender Twin, but it just goes to show how good Fender Twin amps really are, because Fender Twins are great amps. After kind of the Bleach era, he switched to power amps. Instead of guitar amplifiers, he used like power amps as his main power section. He had a Mesa Boogie studio preamp, which is basically like an EQ section, like a valve powered like EQ section. You see it in a rack off to the side of his cabs normally live, and apparently on that one he had the mid range cranked up all the way, and that was always on 10. And I'll get to the EQ in a minute of what I've done. Power amps he used Crown power amps originally, but they couldn't stand the beating that he would give to trashing his gear every night, and basically how hot he'd run them. So they eventually switched to Crest power amps, and they were the 4801 series, or model even, series. And basically, apparently his guitar tech called that the amp that wouldn't die. It just kept going, and you can see them as well in pictures. There's a great picture on the inlay book of the Live at Reading DVD, and you can see it perfectly there with the Mesa Boogie Studio preamp. So that's amps really, kind of straightforward. Mesa Boogie preamp, the Crest power amps. Early on it was Randall, Fender. He used a few Mesa Boogies. He used a couple of different amps. Like I think he used a Vox for some clean bits in the studio for Nevermind and whatnot. But they're kind of his main things. Pedals, DS1, DS2. I see the DS2 more than I see the DS1 with him. Always on his right side. Electro harmonics, small clone. Sorry, but he didn't use the small stone. It's a common thing. He did use the small stone, but he didn't use the small clone, which is a chorus pedal. That was his main chorus pedal. It was on his left side. Used that for stuff like Come As You Are, all the chorusy kind of stuff, and some for solos, some for awesome weird feedback. Later on, there's stuff like a Sans Amp Distortion. He used a Rat, a Big Morph, a Univox Super Fuzz, all sorts, really all sorts of stuff, but his mainstay was DS2, a DS1, and the small clone really. Guitar wise, I'm using my Don't Be Fooled by the headstock and Don't Be Fooled by the colour. This is my vintage modified Squier Jaguar. I wanted a white one. I've always wanted a white Jag. So redid the headstock, put the Fender logo on it, and all this. So that's that. Kurt's Jag was the 65 Jag, and it was heavily modified. It had a super DiMarzio super distortion in the bridge, PAF, DiMarzio PAF something or another in the neck. He never used that. It was modded heavily, 2 volumes for each pickup. Everyone sees that. His favourite guitar ever was a Fender Mustangs, and he had a Fender Competition Mustang which was blue, and that was his favourite guitar. A lot of Fender Strats, which he mainly just smashed. But he used to carry around loads of different parts for Fender Strats so they could rebuild a guitar. Fender Telecasters, early days, you've got Epiphones, what else we got? Univoxes, Moss-Rite, yeah, I've said Epiphone, all sorts of stuff. He also had a Farrington, I think that's how you say it, Farrington Mustang. It was like a, it was like a custom built guitar for him of everything he wanted in a guitar, really. And there's a couple of pictures of it out there and a couple of pictures of him with it. It's 3 pickups basically, and a Gibson bridge basically, just to make the Mustang a bit more tunable and a bit more reliable, so to say, for when he was hammering into it. So yeah, that's a brief history of what Kurt used. I don't want to go crazy. I could talk for hours about his gear, of what I know. It's just a bit crazy, really. It's like Jimi Hendrix and stuff like that. But so that's kind of a brief thing we use. So let me show you the EQ on the CR120. As I'm using my Jaguar for this whole vid. Standard tuning. Kurt would tune down to E flat sometimes, or even lower. But I'm going to stay in standard tuning. I'm going to go to drop D and a weird tuning for Blue, which I'm going to do later on, which is my favourite Nirvana song. So let me show you the EQ on the CR120. Okay, starting off on the clean channel, this is for stuff like About a Girl, beginning of Aneurysm, as you heard at the beginning. So I've got the volume up on 10, bass is on 2, treble is on 2. Dirty channel I've got to kind of like simulate a DS2 and, you know, a bit more EQ from the Mesa Boogie Studio preamp and some of the early kind of bleach era tones. So I've got gain on 10, bass on 10, mid all the way up, just like Kurt. Treble on 2 just to add a bit more brightness. I had to turn the volume down because this sound is so loud. It's on about 8 1/4, no reverb whatsoever, and master volume as usual is on 2. So that's the EQ, and let me show you what it sounds like a bit more. Let's go crazy with some Nirvana. Okay, so you heard a bit at the beginning. Let's play some more. It's the biggest sound ever! And it's very important to do this. This sound is mega. I'm a bit out of tune and I'm going to tune back up. It's getting me all... This sound, it really gets you kind of adrenaline pumping. It really, especially when you're this close to the cab, I can tell you that. So I'm going to play one more Nirvana song, and I've got to go for a bit of a weird tuning on this one. Favourite Nirvana song of all time is Blue, off Bleach. I love this song, and I've got to put my high E string to F. And it sounds weird. But yeah, sounds like this. Also, quickly, one thing to note, you can only ever do this sound with a Jaguar for some reason.